Okay,
Okay,
so let's start talking about
where I was
where
born.
you were born.
Okay, I was born in a town called High House, Pennsylvania. It wasn't a city, it was just a burg. I was born on a farm. My grandparents owned a 5,000 and some acre cattle farm. My
Ooh.
grandfather did. And that's where I was born, along with my two brothers. Although my younger brother was born in a hospital because he was premature. But my older brother Joe and I, we were both born on the farm. And we had a lot of experiences on the farm. My brother saved me from drowning in a kettle.
Oh.
One time I was about two, and I bent over the kettle and I fell in it, and it had water in it. So he pulled me out. So I credit him for that. But other than that, we did. My grandfather had a lot of acres, so we had a lot of experiences. We used to go and ride the pigs in the pig pen and get bet. Pigs can bite. We used to catch crawfish in the trough. We had outhouse, and we had also had city plumbing. We did have city water, but my grandparents had a spring, and it wasn't a well water, but it was spring fed, and it was a pump. It was outside, so if you really wanted cold water, you would get it from there, or as we used to go down to our swimming pool, which was a horse's trough, because the horse's trough was very, very cold. Or we would go to my grandfather had a milk house because he had the milk house, and we would swim in the water where he kept the stainless steel cans of for his milk, because he used to sell milk to the companies nearby, and they sold also chickens. My grandmother had chickens and all that, so I used to have to pluck the chickens in hot water and then pull out their feathers. So that's why I do not eat chicken with bones in it. I don't eat turkey because my grandmother used to crack their necks to kill them. Um, my grandfather would not let us ever see him slaughtering either a pig or a calf or a cow. He usually didn't slaughter his calves, but he had one calf who was born deformed, and he had to get rid of it. And unfortunately, as he was slaughtering it, I walked around the corner to the barn. I don't know who was more upset. I think my grandfather, because I was probably only 5 or 6 years old. So, but we got chased by snakes because it was always my older brother, my Aunt Mary Lou, and myself. We all pelled around together because she lived on the farm too. My grandparents had a side-by-side duplex. And so we would always pell around. So I was always the last one because I was the youngest. And I was the one who, let's see, we got chased by a snake. I stepped on a yellow jacket nest as we were running down the creek, and they were yelling at me to hurry up. So I took a shortcut and stepped on it, and I think I had 11 or 12 bites in the bees. My mom couldn't get the bees out of my clothes. Other than that, oh yeah, I did burn down the haystack. My older brother Joe and I, my father smoked, and we got hold of his cigarette lighter. Oh, what is this? New toy. So we went out behind the haystack.
Oh, not a good idea.
And I say my brother lit the lighter. He'll tell you I did it. I was younger, so it had to have been him. And it started on fire. Luckily, my grandfather was not too far away, and they were able to put it out, or we would have burned the whole barn, the cattle, and everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was. We didn't sit down for a while that time. But so that was my experiences. Went to school, grade school. Then we moved to Cleveland in 1952, and again we stayed with my grandparents. They had a duplex again, but it was upstairs and downstairs. They lived downstairs. We lived upstairs, and I went to Catholic grade school. Then I went to I played basketball in Catholic grade school, and I was a cheerleader, believe it or not. And but I also took dance lessons. I took tap and ballet, but I quit all that because I wanted to play basketball. So
I understand that.
I was on TV at that time for Star Babes, Jean Carroll or somebody years ago, but I quit because I wanted to play basketball. And then at St. Benedict's when I was in 8th grade, I played basketball 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then for academic and basketball and cheerleading, I won the award of All-American Girl. They give it out 1 year to a boy, 1 year to a girl. And in the 8th grade, I won it. So I won that. Then I went to Marymount High School, which was a Catholic all-girls school at the time, and is now Trinity. And from there, I transferred out to Berea to Rame Junior High because my mom and dad bought a house in Brook Park. And that's where I went to junior high school. And then I graduated from Berea High School in 1962. And what else do you need to know?
Well, let's see.
Then I got married. I worked. My first job.
Oh yeah, talk about
my
your
first
jobs.
job was I worked in the toy department, just up my alley, at May Company. Old May Company, long time. That's when there was May Company, Higbee's, Halley's, Sterling, Linder Davis. I mean, this was a long time ago. And I worked that was my first job, and that was downtown Cleveland. And I used to drive to the Rapid and take the Rapid downtown. My first car was a 1954 Ford standard shift car. That's what I learned to drive on. As my father bought it for my brother. My brother went to the service, so that was the first car that I learned to drive. And what else? I graduated from Berea. My last job was at Avnet Electronics.
Yes, and you said that that's where you encountered.
That's where I encountered some age discrimination from my boss. I was there about 20 years before I got laid off. I got laid off 2 years ago, and my boss called me. It was not too long after he took over being the district manager at the company where I worked, at the branch office, I guess. And he asked me how old I was and how long I planned to work. And I think I was like maybe 63, 64, somewhere in that age group. And I was shocked. And I said, and it just happened at a time where he and the company were being sued by somebody else in our office for the same thing, for discrimination against women. And she won her case. So, and he's no longer there. He was gone then, and I lasted longer than he did, so I was happy. But I did encounter that. It was not a very good feeling. And then when they started reorganizing things and things were coming along, we noticed that everybody that was older were the ones who were let go again. But, I was 68. I wanted to make it to be 70, but didn't last that long. And so there were like 3 of us that were older that did get laid off then in 2012. But it is what it is. So I did pursue it as far as human relations. They knew about it. They came down and talked to me and talked to him and that. So, and he got a slap on his wrist. He was no longer the golden boy. So.
Have you ever encountered age discrimination outside of work, like anywhere in the general, like shopping or anywhere in the public?
Not really. I think when you go shopping and stuff, people don't look at you for your age unless you're going to a bar. And I don't normally go to bars and that, but I don't think so. I can't remember ever being that. Get Murphy here right now. No, I got it on my leg. So no, not as far as. I only encountered it in the workplace, and that was enough because and I worked probably 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, you worked
after
for a
that
while.
happened. So I ended up being there for 20 years before I got laid off, but I was there for a few years after, and I think with the woman suing him and the company that played, and I played right into that. So I think that because I should have gotten laid off then. She was going to get laid off. My friend Kim, who was older like me, and the 3 of us were supposed to get laid off, but only Kim got laid off. So he kind of had it in for me, and that's fine. Whatever floats your boat, But I lasted longer than he did, so I was happy.
So going back to earlier, why did you guys move to Cleveland from Pennsylvania?
My father worked in the coal mines, and because that was about the only industry there was. My grandfather also worked in the coal mine. My grandfather on my dad's side also worked in the coal mines, and a coal car full of coal got loose, and it ran over his foot, and he had to have his foot amputated at his ankle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my father's father. So at that time, they really didn't have wheelchairs, and I guess they probably couldn't afford one. So my uncles put wheels on like a wooden chair, and that's what he used for a wheelchair to get around in the house. And it was kind of difficult because to go out of their house, you had to go up steps out of the front, or to go out of the back, there's a long thing of stairs, like in your garage, long steps. So they had to carry them in and out. So, but we moved there because my father was in a coal mine. He got a job at Ford Motor Company. And my grandfather got a job. My grandfather, they actually moved here first. My grandparents, they moved to Lorain. This is my mother's side. They moved to Lorain, and then they moved to East 116th and Buckeye, over right across the street from Woodland Hills Park. So I had all the baseball diamonds, the tennis courts, swimming pool there. My brother and I, we got certified as lifeguards. And then during the winter, I used to do a lot of ice skating in the winter, and in the summer, roller skating. My cousin and I, we would roller skate every day. And in the wintertime, they would take and freeze the tennis courts. And so we would ice skate. They would keep it clear. We would ice skate on the tennis courts. So my parents, for Christmas, I got a pair of ice skates for Christmas. And my younger brother got a pair of ice skates, too, with double runners on them. The first time we went out, him and I both fell, and I cut his lip with my ice skate. But that's what we did then. And that was the entertainment. Or we go up to the show. We would walk to like East 116th and Buckeye, up to the show. We walked everywhere. We walked up to Jane Addams, to John Adams. We would go to Little Italy, but we walked everywhere. We played organized sports, if you want to call it, in the what do you have? In our park. They would have like, what do you call it? People in the parks. They come in like a coordinator type thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then they would put together, like, we would go and play baseball and volleyball and basketball at different playgrounds against each other, and they would come to us. So that's what we did. Most of the time, that's all we did, and it was fun. We used to go to the one store where we would get a little brown bag, and for a nickel, you fill up that whole bag with candy for a nickel. And like
do that now.
no, the bags nowadays are, but they were just a little brown bag. But if you had a nickel, you could get a lot of candy, and that's what we used to do. We used to go out in the park, because it was Woodland Hills is a huge park, huge, and they had soccer fields over on the right, and they had the pool and all that. So we would go and we'd pick up like bottles and that. We'd put the bottles and take them to the store and get the money back. And that's what we used for our penny candy and stuff. And I used to roller skate. We used to have a good time over there. Kids nowadays don't get to do half the things that we used to do. It's not safe for anybody to do that now.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yep, it is sad.
I wish it was like that.
So we moved over here we moved from Pennsylvania to over on east side. Then my parents bought a house in Brook Park, and then my grandparents ended up selling their house and moving to Brook Park too, not too far away from where my parents lived, where we lived. And I went to Berea High School, and at Rain Junior High in the 9th grade, that's where I met your grandfather. We'd sit in the lunchroom and throw spitballs at me. So I wasn't allowed to date. So we just went with friends and stuff. So I wasn't allowed to date because my father wouldn't let me date, and till I was 18. So we would go. My girlfriends and I bought a car. My father helped me finance a car. He co-signed for me, I guess. It was a 1962 Chevy Nova Super Sport convertible.
Nice.
Oh, it was a nice car. It was. And so I would go, and my girlfriend, then her parents bought her a 1959 or 1960 Buick convertible. So when we both worked downtown. One week she would drive, the next week I would drive, so we took turns. And so that was after we graduated. But getting back to Grandpa, then I hadn't seen him. He went to the service, and I hadn't seen him. I was working downtown at New York Life then, and in the death claims department.
Oh, that was
fun.
Depressing.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's a fact of life. And I was walking out one day, and he was walking in because the Selective Service Bureau was on the same floor, and that's where we met again, and we started dating, and then we got married. And then came the kids. Dawn, your Aunt Dawn, and then your Uncle Tommy, then your mom, and then Aunt Erin. And out of all the kids, your mom was my easiest birth, and I had them all cesarean. But when
all of them?
all of them. But when I was having your mom, I told her, the doctor, well, you might as well put in a zipper or hook an eye or something. I mean, it was just, we were just laughing, you know. It must have been the funny juice they gave me. So, yep, so I had your mom. She was the easiest birth out of all of them, out of all the C-sections. So what else?
When you got married, did Grandpa live in Brunswick, or how did you get to Brunswick?
No. Grandpa, I lived in Brook Park. Grandpa lived with his mom and dad in Middleburg Heights,
Oh, okay.
which is right next door, just down the street. And plus we went to school, so he lived there, and that's how we got there. Then we got married. We lived in Lakewood, and then when Aunt Dawn was born, we lived on the 3rd floor. So then we moved to a small house in Berea, and then from there we bought a house in Brunswick. And that's how we got to Brunswick. And that's how they all went to Brunswick schools. They all graduated from Brunswick High School. Everybody, all 4 of them. And then they all had you. So what else?
Let's see.
Kind of jumping around, aren't I?
That's okay.
Feel free to edit whatever you want out of it. I don't care.
I'm not going to edit anything, actually. I'm just going to keep it all.
Oh, get out of here, you ant.
Let's see. How has becoming a grandmother affected you?
Oh, it's so much fun. They should let us be grandmothers first. Because I think we have more patience, more tolerance. You know, I think we're calmer. Things I don't think bother us like they did when they were little. You know, when like your brother was sick and stuff, I could take it in stride, and it didn't bother me as like when they were sick. And your Uncle Tommy had convulsions because he would get a high temperature of 101 would send him into convulsions. Your mother had a couple of them, and Aaron had maybe one, and Dawn had none. She had, but Tommy had the most. He probably had 5 or 6 of them, and if the time he had the one, if he wouldn't have been in bed with me, he probably would have died because I would have never known it, that he was having a convulsion. And then the funniest part is that I never thought about it when I was calling 911. The house we lived in was in back of the house of the police chief of Berea.
Oh.
But I was so rattled that the only thing I could think of was taking him to the hospital. And that's what I drove him to Berea. And that time it wasn't Southwest. It was Berea Hospital.
Yeah.
And it was on the corner of Bagley and Front Street. And now it's Southwest. So that everybody was born in Berea Hospital. So and that's how we got to Brunswick. Well, we were in Brunswick for 30-some years.
Long time.
But it was a drag driving from Brunswick to Solon.
Yeah, to work.
I did that for 13 years. Oh, it was terrible. Much easier from Parma.
Well, it'd be cheaper.
A lot cheaper
than it is now.
Yeah.
If you were to continue being there, because gas is crazy.
But my feeling is that when I got laid off, is that God closed that door for a reason, and that was He opened the one for me to be home to take care of your grandfather, because there would have been no way I would have been able to do both. So I would have lost my job. So my getting laid off ended up being a blessing for Grandpa, because then I was able to be home with him. So yeah, and Grandpa and I will be married 51 years on July 4th this year.
Wow. Oh, July 4th. So we'll be in Florida when we celebrate that.
Hopefully we can find somebody to take care of him. Or if he lets me go, but I'm going anyway. But so, and what else?
I think we got enough.
We got enough? You have enough to cover everything?
I think we're good.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It was